Now that you've integrated and tested Redis OM in your application, how do you take advantage of Redis Search to properly query the data available in your Redis database? That is what we're going to see in this video. If you've ever used Spring Data GPA, then you will quickly understand that the query structure provided by Redis OM in order to search is almost identical to what we use in Spring Data GPA. To see that in details, let's go back to our code. So here is our code, and here we already model a company information in this document, and we created a company repository for our document called company, and this was the sample data we were saving in our Redis database. Now let's take a use case where we want to be able to find a company based on the company ID. For that, we need to use a method called find by ID. This is a find by ID method. We don't have to define this method again because it's already defined in one of the base classes of the Redis document repository, namely the CRUD repository. The CRUD repository already defined this method, and so we don't have to define it again here. So to demonstrate that, let's set an ID for Cameroon, for MTN Cameroon. Let's say the ID of MTN Cameroon is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we come down here and search an item with ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So if we run this application right now, we will notice that our application is running, and if we our application is running, and if we evaluate this line, we should have as result a single item, right? And that is it. So it's just Cameroon. This shows us that we can do a query based on the ID of the item, right? Now let's take another use case where we want to be able to find companies based on this number of employees. Let's go to our repository. The first thing you have to ask yourself when you're trying to create a query is to ask yourself, is my query going to have as result, is the result of my query going to have many items or just a single item? If the result of your query is going to have many items, then you have to return a list or something like a collection, right? But if you're sure that the result of your query will return just a single item, then you can return the object. Let's say, for example, in our case, we want to find companies based on the number of employees. For that reason, we are sure that the result will have many items because many companies can have the same number of employees. So our result will have many items. So we're going to use a list of companies, and we'll say find all by. So if we use the find all by, because this is how we're going to define it. This is how you have to define it. Find all by, and now you pass in the property you're going to search on. In this case, we're going to search based on the number of employees. So say find all by number of employees, and since number of employees is an integer, we're going to pass an integer as parameter, number of employees. So this is a query that will be done if we're trying to find the list of companies with a specific number of employees. Now another use case may be that we want to find a list of companies with where the employee is greater than, where the number of employees is greater than a specific number. In that case, we'll still use a similar query to what we've just defined. we still use a find all by. Now find all by, sorry, we use find all by number of employees still, but in this case number of employees greater than, right, greater than, because we want to be able to find the list of companies where the number of employees is greater than the parameter we're going to pass into this method. Let's use number of employees. Right, so this is a query we've defined to find a list of companies where the number of employees is greater than a specific value. Now let's take another use case where we want to find companies based on this tag. That is, we want to find companies having a specific tag. Don't forget that our tag was defined as a set. So we'll come back to our repository and define still a list, because many companies can have the same tag. Still a list of company. We're expecting a list of company in our result. So we will still say find all by tags, and where don't forget that our tag is a set of a string, so the parameter here will be a string, right? Now we can also have a use case where we want to find a company or list of company using search criteria from two fields, right? Let's say, for example, that we want to be able to find a list of companies having a specific tag and where the number of employees is greater than a specific number. In that case, we'll still use a list as my result, and now we will say find all by. So we're looking for companies having a specific tag and where the number of employees is greater than a specific value. So this is our query, and the first parameter should be the tag, and the second parameter is the number of employees. So that is it, right? So we've created a number of queries. Let's go and test them before we move forward. Come back to our method. Let me okay, I can remove this and say find all by number of employees. Let's take, for example, our model for Microsoft. Microsoft has 10,000 as number of employees. So let's try to find out if we can have Microsoft in our results, right? So pass in 10,000 here and run our application in debug mode. Now let's evaluate this expression in order to find out if the result will return Microsoft or something else. Evaluate, and yes, Microsoft is returned. So this shows that we can find our company data set based on the number of employees, right? Also, let's say we're trying to find out a company list based on the tags. So find all by tags, right? And we'll pass in a tags like software, for example. Software will still retain Microsoft, yeah, because Microsoft is the only object having software. Let's say scalable should retain Redis, because it's the Redis object that has scalable as tag. So let's evaluate this and find out that it's Redis that is returned. So let me try something else here, Africa, and evaluate. And you can see that we have two companies, MTN Cameroon and MTN Nigeria, because both of them were tagged as being in Africa. So if we use something else like USA, we find out that the results will be different. The result will contain Redis and Microsoft, because Redis and Microsoft has been tagged with USA. So this clearly shows that we can search by tag, right? Now let's imagine that we have another scenario where we want to explicitly define, right? We want to explicitly define the address of our company. For that reason, we'll create a new class for address, and this will use the Lombok annotation for that, and this will still be a document. All right, we can use the all argument constructor from Lombok. Let's say this address will contain information like the country, the city, and the street. And now we can add this address to our company this way by using a private address here. We want to be able to search for companies based on their address, so we use the index annotation here. So this will give us the possibility to search for a company based on the address. But if you want to be able to search for a company based on a specific item on the address, then we need to index the property of the address too. So we need to add an index here, and we need to add an index here and to the street. So let's go back to our main class and let's define an address. Let's define an address for our company object. Let's say this is a MTN Cameroon address. We'll say new address, right? The country will be Cameroon. The city will be Douala. Let's say the street is something like Aqua. Aqua is not really a street, but for demonstration purposes, let's say it's Aqua. And MTN Nigeria. Let's create an address for that too. New address. So the country will be Nigeria. The city will be Abuja. And let's say the street is ABC, right? We'll create also an address for, let's say, USA. And it's a new address too. And the country is USA. Let's say the city is San Francisco. And the street is DEF. Now we come to our object here and assign an address. We assign an address to a company called MTN Cameroon. We assign this address MTNC. We come to the company MTN Nigeria and assign an address to it. And we come to Redis, company Redis, and assign an address. We assign the USA, and Microsoft tool we have as address USA. Right now, let's say we want to be able to find companies based in the US. That is, we want to be able to find companies based on their country, right? So we will come back to our repository, and since our companies, since there are many companies that can exist in a specific country, our results will be definitely a list of companies. We will say find all by, right? What are we looking for? By address. We say find all by address, and since we're looking for a specific information in address, that is the country, we'll say find all by address, and we'll put an underscore, and we'll put the country. So this is how we define, and this will put the country. So this is how we define our query when we are looking for a field inside an object, right? So it will do the same thing if we have a use case where we need to find companies based on the city they are found in. We need to say find all by address, and now we use the city information. Now we pass in the city name. So this is how we do to find companies based on the country or the city. So let's run it and find out what is the result of that. So here I will remove this and say find all by address, and now use a country USA, for example. So let me rerun our application. Still in debug mode. And now we can evaluate this expression. Evaluate the expression, and you will notice that our result has two items, Microsoft and Redis, because Microsoft and Redis have been given the address object with the country property USA. So if I use something like Cameroon, you will notice that only MTN Cameroon will be returned. That is it. So if I use Nigeria, you will notice too that only MTN Nigeria is returned. It's because in the address property of MTN Nigeria, the country was assigned, and the country Nigeria was given to the country field. So now, what if we want to be able to look for a list of companies based on the country and the city, based on the country and the city in the address object? So we'll go back to our repository and say list, because we're expecting to have a list of companies. So we'll say find all by address, right? We're looking for a country and still say address, right? And the second property is the city. So, and now we say string country. The first parameter is a country, and the second parameter will be a city. All right. So this query will help us to find the list of companies based on the country and the city. This is how simple it is to create queries using the Redis OM. And when you do that, when you do this, in the background, Redis OM translate this query to a native Redis queries, and the result is returned back to you. So that is it. That's how simple it is to create your queries using Redis OM. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them in the comment section below. Share with your friends and like the video if you like what we do. And see you in the next video.